My most favorite clients to work with are those who are truly ready. They feel it in their soul, in their gut,
Mhm.
that they're ready to heal, that they've been hoping and they've been putting in the work to overcome their
Mhm.
past challenges. And they're at the point that maybe what they've been trying hasn't been working, that they're seeking for some true long lasting transformation.
Welcome back to another episode. I am so grateful to be here with you today. As without my listeners, there is no podcast. And I'm also excited because I have a special guest that I have been trying to get on this podcast for a long time. And I'm so excited because not only is she a fast friend, she is a person who actually came through my NLP training. And so now she's doing her own work. She's doing her own work, helping to heal people from past trauma, helping for people to heal from past pain. And she is the founder of Sunshine Soul Vibes. I am so excited to bring on the podcast because we're going to be talking about healing today. And it's something that I love to talk about, but I haven't really talked about in a while because I've been so focused on communication. So I'm glad to bring healing back into the mix. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you. I am super excited to be here. It's an honor. It's been wonderful going through your program, and I'm super excited being able to guide people through transformational trauma experiences.
Yeah, you're good at what you do, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that just because I know you. I'm saying it because I've seen you. I want the audience. I always love for the audience to get a little bit of insight on the who they're listening to. So just take a moment and just introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Jamie. I'm the founder of Sunshine Soul Vibes, and what my passion is helping men and women heal from their past trauma experiences, and also coming into different organizations and providing wellness workshops and transformational communication classes.
And that's super important, as we well know, especially during these times. Especially during these times. I like to ask a little bit about like how you came into this work. Like, what is it that attracted you to the work of hypnosis, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, NLP? Like, what is it that interested you about that? Just give us a little bit of your motivation and your journey.
Okay. Well, I am a daughter of a Vietnam veteran. And
Mm.
during that time period and upbringing, they were raised during the silent generation.
Oh.
When my father returned from Vietnam, he was still battling with a lot of internal challenges,
Hmm.
basically an internal war.
Yeah.
And it took a toll on my brother and I.
Hmm.
And as a child, not being able to understand why he was so reactive and hostile, I internalized a lot of those things.
Yeah.
As I was growing up, I, of course, had to go through my own healing journey and learning how to feel
Mhm.
worthy, how
Yeah,
to feel whole.
yeah.
And for a lot of those adult years, there were times where I didn't think that that reality was possible for me
Mm, mhm.
until I found you.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Girl, you got me over here chills and also, like, don't be surprised if you see some tears. I mean, like, this is that kind of show. It's authentic. I'm not gonna stop it. I'm not gonna push it down. I appreciate that. And it's interesting because on these podcasts, even with people that I know and I love, I often learn new things. And so I didn't know that. And I don't know if I've ever shared. I know I've shared in the context of this podcast, but I also being the child witness and survivor of domestic abuse, it's something that and it happens to be that the abuser was also a Vietnam veteran.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
And so like that level of, and it wasn't until, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, because it was before I had my son, but I remember it's about 10, maybe it was about 12 years ago that I had a conversation with him and that I could really understand what he was dealing with.
Mhm.
Like that level, and that led me to be able to grab onto a level of forgiveness that I never thought was possible. But that only happened because of the work that we're about to talk about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you for your vulnerability and being willing to share that, because I know that there are listeners out there who have experienced this or very similar trauma, who have experienced this level of not feeling like they're enough or worthy, that can hear themselves in our conversation. So thank you for sharing that. I mean, let's talk a little bit about this process, because I mean, it's a pretty amazing process, if I may say so myself. So, tell me about your coaching process and how you utilize NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy to heal people.
Yes, that's a great question. So, with timeline therapy, based off of what the client needs at that moment,
Mhm,
we address different emotions: anger,
mhm,
shame, guilt, or regret. We identify whether or not the client needs to release those emotions from their past, if they had a traumatic experience
mhm,
or an experience in general where they have been holding on to a lot of anger or resentment and
right,
it's keeping them from moving forward. We
mhm,
utilize timeline therapy to reframe at the root experience, and then they're able to move through that pain and that experience and
yeah.
break through those negative beliefs that they have so they can step into their power in their future.
Yeah, it's interesting because you talk about the emotions and the beliefs, and when I talk to the people that I work with, I often tell them we have to release the emotions in order to release the belief,
Mhm,
because a lot of times, as you alluded to, and as I've alluded to, it's like when you go through those very emotional, high emotional experiences, they do create beliefs, but they're very like interlocked with the emotion. And
mhm,
so you have to, people always like, well, why do you need to release the emotion first? Can we release the beliefs first?
mhm.
It really isn't. Like in order to be able to loosen that grip, you have to get rid of that anger. You have to get rid of that sadness and that guilt and that shame and that fear or whatever it is that you're holding on to. So
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
yes. At the root cause is the emotion that paints the picture, and that
Yeah.
picture that we create forms the beliefs that we carry with us.
I love that. The root cause is what paints the picture. And
Mhm,
then that you like go and make decisions, the picture that you then look at like the world view, and that you go and now you're making all your decisions based on this initial picture from that root cause. Oh, what a beautiful metaphor.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so do you use hypnotherapy as well in your practice?
I do. I do. As a veteran myself, I have
Mhm,
experienced anxiety
mhm,
when I was in the Air Force, preparing
mhm,
for my physical test, actually.
mhm,
And I know a lot of people would joke on me about this, but I am not a runner. I can
mhm,
do strength training all day, but cardio is not my thing.
mhm. I feel you, girl.
And so for me, the physical fitness test, it created a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety surrounding that.
Mhm,
Um, and just trying to figure out a strategy that worked for me to physically prepare as well
mhm.
as mentally prepare for that,
Yeah.
as well as still fulfilling my roles as a mom, as a
Yes.
student, as a daughter. It was a lot. And
Yes.
it manifested within my body as bruxism. So I would go to
Mm.
sleep and still chew on that problem. How am I gonna
Mhm.
pass this exam?
Mm.
Because there was so much pressure
Mhm.
for me to excel in my military career because it was the
Mhm.
foundation of what I needed to support my family at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Again, with the metaphor, the chewing on the problem. And
Mhm,
how often do people do that? I mean, whether it's through physical chewing or
mhm,
mental rumination, right? Like they hold on and chew on those problems. And oftentimes is due to whatever that belief is about what's required of them or what they're capable of doing, or that comes from that initial event that painted that picture. Oh yeah, I love that. The chewing on the problem. And you've used that before offline in the back when we've talked. I've always like held on to that. Like that is such a, again, such a very dynamic and what's the word that I'm looking for? Like clear.
Mhm.
metaphor for what happens
Yeah.
when we hold on to something. Yeah, very,
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah.
So you may have said it, but who do you work with? Who are the people that you most love to work with, that you most desire to make a difference with?
I would say my most favorite clients to work with are those who are truly ready. They feel it in their soul, in their gut, that they're ready to heal, that
Mm-hmm.
they've been hoping and they've been putting into work to overcome their
Mm-hmm.
past challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And they're at the point that maybe what they've been trying hasn't been working,
Mm-hmm.
that they're seeking for some true long-lasting transformation.
Yeah.
And that's what I offer with timeline therapy and hypnotherapy.
Yes, 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 yes. All right. Speaking of hypnotherapy, let's bust some myths.
Mm.
And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite things to do. And whenever I go on other people's podcasts, they always are like, here are some of the myths about hypnotherapy. So let's do it on this show.
Yeah.
I know people have all kind of thoughts about hypnosis, and I myself, before I trained, I like many, many years ago, many moons ago, I used to think, oh my gosh, I can't have nobody controlling my mind,
Mhm.
right? And well, that's a myth.
Mhm. It
It's
is.
like we can't do that.
100%.
We can't do that. What about you? What are some of the ones that you've heard, or even maybe that you've had yourself? What are some of the myths that you've heard or that you've had yourself?
Yeah, so of course, before learning about hypnotherapy, I also thought that it was mind control. Television, all the movies, the TV series, the comedy shows, they all have a way of painting this picture of stage hypnosis. That is
Mm-hmm.
not the same hypnotherapy that you experience when you're doing therapeutic sessions.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's like we don't make people cluck like chickens or bark like dogs
Unless you
or
want
dance. Right. Unless you want to, unless that's part of the game. That's
right?
what you want to do. Right. But and I always tell people, and I don't know, the audience is very varied, but I always tell people like there's no sunken place.
No.
And we don't tap on the side of a teacup. Like that's not what we do. This is not get out energy.
Nope.
Mm-mm. Right. So now that we know what it isn't, right? Let's talk about. Oh, and here's the other thing that people think that hypnosis is something we do to them.
Mm, mm,
And like every single time I have to tell people, like, no, this is something that is can only do permissively. We do
mhm,
it with you because you
mhm,
got to be able to follow instructions,
mhm. Yep, yep.
right? So, funny story. My son, who's about the same age as your son, we know, right? 10. Sometimes at nights he wants me to hypnotize him to go to sleep. So now I'm like, I go and I do like a very mini version for him, but
Mhm,
I'll take him through the progressive relaxation. And then I use this whole frame of what do you want to dream about? And then
mhm.
have them bring it up on the screen, have them enlarge it, have them step into it, and then do some suggestions around sleeping, having a good sleep. So I'll do this, and this happens frequently. So I stopped doing it. I told him, okay, you know how to hypnotize yourself to sleep. Now I've done it enough times, you know how to do it. So you hypnotize yourself, okay? Hypnotize yourself. So, so I would like do the whole thing, right? And he would be literally like falling. He'd be like, you could tell, like he had
Mhm.
all the signs. And then I would stop and I would get up, and he'd be like, "Where you going?" I'm like,
Aw.
you're not following the instructions. The instructions were to go to sleep and sleep all the way through the night.
I love that.
Right. Now, now, some people on the other end of this may be arguing, well, that means it didn't work. Well, it
Right,
didn't work because he wasn't following instructions. So
right.
I say that to say, if you are being hit, and I've had clients literally tell me, like, oh, I've had hypnosis and it didn't work. And I would say to them, well, it probably didn't work because you didn't trust the person you were with enough to allow them to relax you enough for it to work. Right. And then we do the hypnosis session, and then they go into hypnosis, right?
Mhm.
So it's just guided assistance into trance.
Yes. And yeah, and we've all been into trance, right?
We
When we're
have all been
meditating,
there. That's
we're
right.
all like driving somewhere, and we're like, "Oh, how did I get here?" Like,
That's right. I do that all the time.
right?
Where am I? Where am I? Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, this work of hypnosis and timeline therapy, I mean, the reason it works so well is because it goes deeper.
Mhm,
It is that deep core unconscious mind work, that work that is beyond what's reachable for us.
mhm.
And I think that's what makes it so powerful. What's your
Yes.
what's your favorite thing about it?
The fact that you get extremely relaxed and comfortable, that's
Yes.
like I love that part of the experience.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Now, do you do self hypnosis?
I do self-hypnosis to help with more focus and grounding. When I
Mhm.
have challenges arise, sometimes it's easy to be reactionary, and
Mhm.
I utilize hypnotherapy as an anchor
Yeah.
to remain calm in
I
challenging situations.
yeah. I imagine that this would be something that would be really useful as a skill to teach people in organizations.
Mhm. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
How do you see your work really benefiting people? Like, given the environment, the climate that we're in right now, I know there's a lot of anxiety. We've
Yes.
sort of talked about it offline. Like, there's so much
Mhm.
anxiety, there's so much uncertainty. And this is inside of organizations, there's a lot of uncertainty as well.
Mm.
How do you see that your work with people, with the organizations, can actually help them as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Utilizing hypnotherapy for those who are open to the concept. Let's first address that because you have to be open. You have to trust
Mhm,
the practitioner that you're working with.
mhm,
Utilizing hypnotherapy as a tool to help anchor their different teams and employees
mhm,
to be calm and
mhm,
focused, and
mhm.
even increasing energy throughout the workday to be more productive
Yeah.
and build more team morale, more cohesiveness throughout
Mhm.
the organization.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And you're right, like, people have to be open. I think that with traditional corporate starting to realize that things like mindfulness meditation, things like emotional intelligence, things
Mhm,
like emotional regulation are very valid and very useful and evidence-based tools, that to be able to utilize the tool of hypnotherapy, even in a group setting, like it very, very adjacent to a deep meditation, to be able to anchor that calm. And as a tool, like, I think what happens that we don't often realize when we teach groups is that when we do a process with them, we're also giving them a tool, because
mhm,
they can actually go back and be like, oh, I do remember, like, how this, some of the things that she did in order to help me relax. And
mhm,
they can actually go and they can utilize that tool. So I think
mhm.
it's a very important tool to be bringing to organizations for their teams. Yeah, for the well-being specifically of their teams.
Yes, yes, I definitely agree, and for a lot of people, I like to liken hypnotherapy to meditation. The
Mhm.
only thing difference is the intention, what you're
Yes,
focusing on in the goal. Yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, so, I mean, I have loved this conversation, and I always ask my guests, like, is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you want the audience to know?
I guess I would like to share a little bit about the name behind my business.
Yes.
Sunshine, Soul Vibes.
Mhm,
The significance behind that is when I was going through my own healing journey, and I
mhm,
was in a very dark place.
mhm,
A lot of people that I came in contact with, whether it was friends or family or random
Mhm,
people,
mhm,
they always said that I was like a breath of sunshine, that I
mm,
always brought joy and peace into their life.
yeah,
And at that time, I couldn't understand why they felt that way
yeah,
because I was in a very dark place at that time.
yeah.
And it wasn't until I had my own transformation that I realized that within me exists the sunshine that they were always talking about.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to radiate that light out into the world and
Mm,
provide healing and transformation to other people.
mhm.
When I guide clients through my signature program, they come to find that the light within has always been mixed on, and
Mm,
that the healing and the transformation that they receive
yeah.
is at soul and cellular level. And so
Wow.
the soul vibes is a play on the good vibes.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I'm sorry, I'm just getting feels. I'm getting feels. And like sometimes you have we talk about when I talk about communication, and you know this because you've been to my program, 7% of communication is words and 93% is everything else.
Mhm,
And like sometimes I just lose my words. And so like that just I think that kind of made me lose my words a little bit because it's so beautiful. I will admit that I did not expect to for this to be such a deeply emotional and I think it's just because of who you are. Like it really is. I when you said that, I was like, oh, I can totally see that. Like you were such a joy every time you walked in the room during that week we were together in the training. And every time you show up on the screen, every time we talk, you radiate that. And I think what I'm so moved by is that you have come to know that about yourself.
mhm.
I
Yes.
think that's what I'm so moved by, and I know how passionate you are about wanting to bring that to other people, wanting to help other people move through those spaces because of the transformation that you've had, and it's just so I encourage anyone who's listening out there, like really, if you want that to really get that, to see that sunshine, to really feel that light inside of you come out, then you need to reach out to Jamie. So, speaking of that, how can people find you? How can they follow you? What's your website? Like, how can people find out more and work with you?
Yeah, so they can go onto my website at sunshinesoulvibes.com, as well as follow me on Instagram, Sunshine Soul Vibes, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well under Jamie Green.
That's right. So I'm talking to the organizations out there. We've been talked offline about the value of employee resource groups and business resource groups, and I think that the work that you have to bring would be very valuable to a lot of employee resource groups out there, and a lot of organizations, as well as those individuals who are listening who know, hey, this she's talking to me. She's talking to me. And thank you so much for being willing to
Thank
be here with me. I know it took something. It's always taking like you're not the only one. I do take something to get people to come on and to really like share yourself. Like you shared yourself so authentically and so beautifully. And then, you can see the alignment of who you are with the work that you do. And I think that's what makes the transformation so deep that you bring. So thank you for just being willing to be with me and spend time with me on the podcast today.
enjoyed it so much. Thank you for having me.
Yay, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Well, you heard it. You all need to go and check out Jamie on LinkedIn, on Instagram, her website, sunshinesoulvibes.com. Yep, sunshinesoulvibes.com. Y'all check her out.
Mhm.
And again, you all know where to find me for communication stuff, for psychological safety stuff, organizations. Y'all want me to come in and work and run workshops. You know that where to find me. I encourage you, if you're listening and you really got value out of this conversation, to share this episode, share with a friend, share with a colleague, share with a family member, because we know that there are people out there who have dealt with trauma, who are holding pain, who are holding shame, who are holding guilt and sadness and fear and hurt, who need to have that released.
Mhm.
And so share this with the people in your life, share it with a colleague, share it with a leader, and leave a review. Leave a review, because people coming after need to know that the conversations that we are having are meaningful and are valuable and can make a difference. We're really trying to create those ripples, y'all. So, again, thank you, Jamie, for being with me. And I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. Love you so much.
Yes, I love you back, girl. I love you back. And I thank my listeners once again, because of course without you there is no podcast. And so until the next time that we see each other, you all stay safe and you stay empowered.